So in Dead Space 3, the game starts off where you're walking away from the playground of the nursing home because you finally fixed the slide.
And there's domos everywhere.
And there's domos everywhere. And you step in this big pile of dirt, but you realize it's actually a giant domo resting ground, and you've disturbed their graves. So they start rising from the grave.
And you must battle them with Flareons.
And that melts them
Sometimes
because they're made
Jolteon.
out of fudge and brownies and that sort of thing, I think.
Sometimes you can use Jolteon, but only if you're out of Flareons.
Right. So,
Vaporeon is not an option.
So-
Let's just get that clear.
in this game, you don't play as Isaac Clarke because in the last game he had a bowel movement, and that was the plot twist of the game where he has to go to the bathroom and so he can't leave. But Samus Aran escapes. So in this game,
She loses all her weight.
she loses all her weight, so she's sexy again, but she's still 50 years
still
old, so
50.
she's a little bit, granny-like.
Yeah.
Not quite,
Not
but
quite.
she's on her way there.
She's on the fence.
She's on the fence. She's over the hill, and so she doesn't have the acrobatic moves she used to have, but she still has that annoying whip and gun blaster thing that she had.
Yep.
And basically, you have to throw the Jolteons and the Flareons at the domos, and the domos eat the Pokemon, and once the domos eat the Pokemon.
If they eat the Flareon, they melt from the inside out, and if they eat Jolteon, it just spikes them.
Yeah, and then they just become crispy brownies, and that's actually how you recover health. What's this way?
Eventually, Samus is teamed up with Merlin,
Right.
and they must find the Sword in the Stone.
Yeah. But before they can find the sword in the stone, actually, they have to get high. They have to get like really high. Insanely high.
They're all attacked by necromorphs.
They're attacked by necromorphs, so they're in Hyrule. Merlin, Samus Aran, now 50 years old, she can't do her acrobatics, and they're being attacked by necromorphs in the Lost Woods.
Eventually, they tame the necromorphs.
And they have one who's like a dog, and it only knows how to say it only knows how to say that, and
I still can't do that without coughing.
see, I'm good at it. Anyways,
Anyway, the necromorphs show them the way to the Sword in the Stone.
but they find out that the sword in the stone is actually at the bottom of the lake. So Samus Aran has to go and find the gravity suit. So she has to fly all the way to Talon 4. She has to go to the ice caverns of Phendrana Drifts. She fights through pirates, all that stuff. And then she finds the gravity suit, so she flies all the way back. And this is all in real time, so you actually have to go into cryostasis or whatever for about, I'm going to say...
17 weeks.
No, I'd say more like a few years, like 17 years maybe.
Oy.
I mean, like, the technology's advanced in the game, but it's not that advanced.
It's not that.
So you have to wait, it's like Desert Bus, but in space. And
So she comes back and she enters the lake with the gravity suit, and she sees the Sword in Stone. It's all covered in moss, and she tries to pull it out, but she can't. So Merlin comes in with his magic bubble, which he could have put on her, but no.
he didn't want to tell
he
her
didn't.
for plot convenience. It looks like something's poking its head out of the water there.
There's
kinda
snapping
funny.
turtles.
Snapping turtles? Awesome!
Hey, wanna?
So they find out that only the snapping turtles can pull out the sword in the stone, so they have to train one, and they have to genetically enhance it like a baby. They have to genetically enhance snapping turtle babies
To become whales.
to become whales. And once they become whales, they gain the ability to pull out the sword in the stone, but they realize that they only have flippers, and so they can't actually pull out the sword in the stone.
So instead, Samus holds on to the sword, along with Merlin and the whales, to help pull out the stone. It eventually comes out, but it snaps in two pieces.
So then they have to go to the blacksmith, and he tells them that they have to wait 3 to 5 business days for the sword to be fixed. They find out that the guy was actually just keeping it on the bench because he was a lazy bastard who worked at Staples a few years ago.
Yeah.
And he fixed my computer once, I know the guy. But anyways, so they find out that he didn't fix it, so they take the sword and
Bring it to Link.
they demand a refund, but the guy doesn't give it to them, so they
So
walk
they go
out
and-
kind of pissed.
They go out and find Link and ask him to turn the Sword and Stone into the Master Sword, so they can finally defeat the evil Domos.
And basically the rest of the game is a fetch quest where you have to find
All 8 of the Triforce pieces,
that, and you also have to find every bug in the land, all the golden bugs,
all of them.
all of them. Otherwise, the little girl with the butterfly wings will come in at the end, and she'll murder all of you with her creepiness, and
Plasma
that's the
cannon.
bad ending of the game. And she has a plasma cannon. She steals it from Samus. So, yeah, it's a pretty intense game. There's an extra mode called Killer 8 mode, where you play as an old guy in a top hat, and he has a high-powered rifle, and
His cane. He has a high-powered rifle.
he
His cane.
has a high-powered cane,
High-powered cane. Right?
which is actually jet-powered. It's how he gets around quickly in his wheelchair. Dead Space 4 is it takes place in a bubble.
No.
Like, not a bubble, but like a world that is a bubble. Like, you're inside of the bubble. It's like an inverted Earth where,
It's
like,
a pink bubble, and it has bubblegum flavor along with a hint of lemon.
right. And in this game, you play as a tadpole, and in order to progress through the game, you have to eat other tadpoles. So it's a game about cannibalism. There's a lot of overtones of cannibalism. You have to become a political minister, so you're this tadpole, and you have to give speeches. You have to go around the bubble, and you have to, just help people out and promise them things that you aren't actually going to go through with. And
But once you actually complete a simple task, a tree grows out of your head. And
Right.
You have to carry it around.
right.
So you never really want to help anybody.
and you name the tree Harold, and eventually it gets so heavy that you get stuck to one place, and for the rest of the game you're basically just kind of sitting there, and sometimes people will walk up to you and you'll ask them to kill you because you're really just tired of playing the game, but you can't turn the game off until you die, which is one of the new technological feats of modern
all their
gaming.
dogs are pissing on you, and
All the
all
dogs
this.
are pissing on you. And, so basically you're like this tree tadpole. And, you used to be this political minister. You used to have a wife and kids, even though you were a tadpole, which is kind of weird. But you have a beautiful wife and kids. The wife is a human. She is a secretary. And your kids are like these tadpole humans. Like, they have human bodies, but then they have tadpole heads.
And they were good at building backyard decks.
Right, they're good at building backyard decks. So when you finally get somebody to kill you, the lone wanderer from Vault 101,
Hands you a 4-leaf clover.
yeah, he hands you a 4-leaf clover, and you realize you're allergic to 4-leaf clovers, and you die. But that's not the end of the game. That's just the beginning. That's the tutorial level.
You become a ghost.
Right, you become a ghost,
And the tree on your head becomes detached from you and actually becomes your steed for the rest of the game.
And actually, there's a 2-player mode which goes into much more depth in the game, where you play as the kids, and you have to deal with your life at school, and having a girlfriend and all that stuff, with a tadpole for a head.
With a tadpole for it.
And your mom is totally disappointed that you have a tadpole for a head, so you have to deal with your emotional problems
At home and with your
trying to
girlfriend.
be accepted by your mother, who is human, and yourself, who is a tadpole freak of nature monster thing.
And your peers.
And your peers, there are
Tadpole face.
a lot of people that bully you, call you tadpole face. They ask you, "Hey, is that a ponytail, or is that just your face?"
And they're all laughing at you, and then you cry.
And then you cry.
For at
And-
least 4.5
and you have-
hours.
Yeah, for at least 4.5 hours real game time, or real time, and you have to make your cry meter go all the way down to 0 before you can continue on. And once the kids get bored and leave you alone, you have to walk into the bathroom and find your magical fairy godmother, and she gives you bullets and a gun. So you
The plasma cutter.
she gives you a plasma cutter, yes,
And the Ripper.
and the Ripper. So you start using the plasma cutter and the ripper, and you're just hacking through your schoolmates, and it's really disturbing.
And it's like, who's crying now? Who's crying now?
Who is a tadpole head now? And it's a really
still
intense
you.
moment in the game. A lot of people, like a lot of controversy has been sparked up over Dead Space 4, but like it's
to help the little kids play the game, they take out the blood and they replace it with mercury.
right. So everybody bleeds this fun to
Silvery.
play with silvery liquidy stuff, and
Don't eat it
don't eat it. Just don't eat it, unless you're a tadpole.
unless you're a tadpole.
But you're a tadpole human, so if you eat it, then your skin turns silver, and then you turn into a statue, and you have to stay like that for the rest of the game. And
so just stay away from it.
so your father comes down to you. He's a ghost, and
With his tree steed.
he has his tree
Harold.
steed. Yeah, instead of on his head, it's now on his legs, and it kind of moves him around. It's like a carriage of sorts.
And his name is Harold still.
His name is Harold. Still.
Harold the ghost tree steed.
Right. And he tells you, son, it's alright. I'm weird too. And so you wake up from your dream. You find out it was actually a dream the whole time. And you go to school with a new light, but everybody's dead, so you kind of feel bad. But then you go home and you find out that your mom has been kidnapped by the president, and the ninjas ask you if you're a bad enough dude to take down the president. So the rest of the game, you're fighting through CIA and FBI agents, and you're trying to get to the president to rescue your mother, who
Was kidnapped by
was
the president.
kidnapped by the president.
Eventually, halfway through the game, you're accompanied by the I want to be the guy.
Right. And he just dies constantly and then respawns next to you, so he's kind of useless. But
Still has the little pew pew pews. though.
still has little pew pew pews. Actually, he's the guy now, so he has big pew pew pews.
Ah.
But he dies just as often.
Yeah. Blame the spikes.
Blame the spikes.
You
And-
never get hit by
and
the
the
spikes.
apples.
Yeah, the apples too. You never get hit by the spikes, but he does.
Yeah.
The apples, you both get hit by them.
Right. Except when you get hit by them, you don't explode into a fountain of blood and body parts. You just kind of
Just eat them.
Yeah, you just pick them up and you
And
eat
that's
them.
how you get health.
And you you get over with your life. You know, it's like
That's how you get health.
eat an apple, you crazy bastard. So, Dead Space 4, the finale of that game, you have to fight Oprah Winfrey and Laurie O'Donnell. I don't know who that is, but
Rosie O'Donnell.
Rosie O'Donnell. That too. So you have to fight Laurie O'Donnell, you have to fight
Rosie O'Donnell.
and
and
you
Oprah
have to
Winfrey.
fight Oprah Winfrey and the
But first,
and
before
the
you
one
get-
guy from Cake Boss.
Before you enter the room, you have to fight the Kraken.
Right, you have to fight the Kraken, and you also have to fight the squid face guy from Pirates of the Caribbean 3.
Yes.
And he's actually kind of a puss, and so he just kind of runs away, and you don't actually fight him. But the Kraken is a total badass, and
Yeah.
it has lasers for tentacles.
And he has a zombie riding on top of his face with,
So it's like-
raptors and sharks.
It's like a lightsaber fight, except you don't have any weapons throughout this whole game, so you just have to kind of talk it down. You have to give it a juice box, and if you don't have a juice box, it just rips your eyes out and eats them.
So make sure to save the juice boxes from the beginning.
Right. But, basically, once you defeat the Kraken, you walk into the next room, and you find out that, the trio of evil crazy ladies, they have done the unthinkable. They've cast evil black magic to become one, and now they're this big Cerberus-like beast, except they're talk show hosts.
Yes.
Even the one who isn't a talk show host, she becomes a talk show host. And so they make you sit down. It's like The View, except you're a tadpole head, and they ask you about it. And you talk
defeat
to them about it.
Once you defeat them,
You defeat them by telling them that they're sellouts, and then they get pissed at you, and then they start arguing with each other, and then they just kind of eat each other.
Just go inside.
Yeah.
So they get eaten. They die. They explode and die, and then all of them get eaten by Ellen DeGeneres.
Right. And Amy Winehouse.
Yes.
And that's the end of Dead Space 4. They haven't announced the sequel, but yeah, it's a very cool series. I suggest you guys check it out sometime.
Yes.
So that's been me and Love taking a walk, and we'll see you next time.
This is my house.
And
Bye bye.
This is his house.